Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Aleasha Bahr, and this is the Introverted Entrepreneur Success Stories. I am a sales coach for introverts, and I craft custom sales processes that allow you to sign up over 50% of the people you talk to without pain pitching or pretending to be somebody else. And the idea for this show came from people like you who have the desire to be an entrepreneur, but might let being an introvert hold you back or make you think that you're not cut out for it. So we decided it could be helpful to interview introverted entrepreneurs about their journey, success, and how they feel about sales. Because we found that sales is an unavoidable part of entrepreneurship and often the reason introverts shy away from it. And in this conversation with Erin, promotions is a part of that sales, which we'll talk about. So joining us on the show today is Erin Trumble. She's a custom jeweler who creates powerful pieces from organic stones and has an incredible, inspiring story that I'm so excited to add into this series as an artist. So welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you. We were talking about some really cool stuff before, and I was like, I have to hit record. So I'm going to go back to some of those because Erin's story is a little different. She sort of fell into being a business owner. So do you want to give us a little background for everybody?
Yeah, you want me to go all the way back?
Yeah, I would start even with just start with the jewelry stuff. And then with the first question, we'll talk about the before the jewelry stuff.
Well, perfect. So I started my business a little over 10 years ago. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time and had kind of this little side blog project just to give myself something creative to do. When my husband came home from work one day and told me that he quit his job. And I freaked out because I was a stay-at-home mom and realized that I kind of needed to give him some space and time to figure out what he wanted to do for the next rest of his life, and started a jewelry business. And it was really kind of that space and time that he was able to give me and vice versa that turned something that was a lifelong hobby into a profitable business that was able to help support my family.
Yeah, it's so cool how that happened, how you just kind of sometimes things happen even better when there's not, well, I guess that did have some pressure though, because you needed to make income, but you weren't like, oh, do I have what it takes to be a jeweler? Like you didn't have that internal conflict, right?
That conflict was definitely still there.
Okay.
It was definitely much more of are people gonna like me? Is somebody gonna buy what I make? What if nobody buys what I make? Actually, the very first market that I did, a friend of mine ran this market in South Florida, and she was like, just come, just try it out, no pressure. I was like, all right. So I brought 12 necklaces and a folding table, and in the first hour, they were all sold. I was like, oh, cool. Now I've got 8 more hours of sitting here and nothing to show for it. But yeah, it was okay, this maybe is a thing. I have a little bit of a different sense of style, and I guess it's not too weird for other people.
That is so cool. It's probably even better that it's not like other people, because then it's something different.
Totally. It's funny though, starting in South Florida, my aesthetic was very organic rocks, rough, a little kind of metal sort of thing. And then when I came out here, it was so well embraced in Colorado that it was how did this sell in South Florida? There is not a pastel color or seashell anywhere to be found here.
Yeah. So it wasn't
amazing.
as polished, you mean?
Totally. Yeah. And when we moved to Colorado, it just exploded.
Yeah, they love that here.
Yeah,
for sure. So before starting a business, did you think that being introverted would be an asset or not?
No. My whole life, I thought being introverted was a huge character flaw. And, I was always the person who was trying to just fade into the background. My whole life revolved around not being in the center of anything. I'm also super tall, which makes it even harder because I stand out in a crowd. And so I was always trying to make myself small,
Classic. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny, my first career pre-child, pre-having a baby, I was a hairstylist, and it was like I loved the creativity of it. I loved talking to people one-on-one, but I hated promoting myself. And like my business there was completely failing because I wouldn't promote myself. So it was like, I hope somebody comes and finds me because there's no way I'm going to tell anybody to come see me or ask anyone to come see me.
Yeah. So this led to me asking, like, well, what made you do this show?
You know, when the pandemic hit, I had most of my business was wholesale, and I realized as things were starting to close down, and not just temporarily, but I had quite a few retailers lose their business during COVID. And I was like, if they're not selling for me, if they're not promoting me, like who's going to? Like this could all just slowly fade into the background right now. And I knew that that wasn't what I wanted. I had really worked hard to build my business. And so I was like, all right, Erin, time to stop lying to yourself about being bad at marketing, time to stop hiding behind everything else. Like you got to put yourself out there. And that's what led me here. Like just that realization that no one else was going to do it for me. So I had to do it myself. And to be honest, like I do enjoy it. I enjoy
Good.
putting that out there. It's still scary, but it's fun to connect in that sort of way.
Yeah. So it almost seems like you were telling me about like how you, kind of like the strategy behind your social promotion, and how it's really about, being joyful, like insights that you've learned in your life. And I wonder if, finding a way to promote that didn't feel like that felt authentic to you, if maybe that is what made you feel comfortable and enjoy doing it.
Yeah, totally. It's funny when I was in college, I answered this ad in the college paper to sell Cutco knives and went into this sales meeting
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I don't want to do this. Like, what am I doing here? Like, I can't sell things. Like, that is not what I do. And I sold one set of knives to myself so that I could like hit my quota and bail. Like I was out. And so it's funny, like thinking about being a salesperson. And ironically now, like full circle, I sell custom knives. And yeah, it's just being a salesperson was never what I imagined. And really now, like through my social media, I'm never really trying to sell anything. It's like I'll post pictures of what I create, but really it's more about like spreading this message of like, you can do whatever you put your mind to doing. And if you want to live this life of like gratitude and a joyful presence, like just do it, that you don't have to be this specific thing. And it's really more just about being myself, I guess.
There's so much there. That's definitely the best sales strategy is authenticity. And introverts often, I've pretty sure I've talked about this before, make the best salespeople. They definitely make the best people to work with, I think, because they are so good at listening and
Yeah.
hearing, and like the dedication to delivering something that's quality that they're really proud of. And the sales process is just a means to get there. So as soon as they lean into those qualities that make them themselves, I always find that they're the most successful because they're so authentic in it. And that's all people really want is I just like nobody buys anything without trust. So if you're pretending to be someone else, like I don't really trust you. It doesn't
Right.
feel right. And same in promotions. It's like, and this kind of plays into also what we were talking about before. Like if you're making art for someone else, it's ironically not going to sell because it's not authentic to you. And people can feel that like when you're talking about it, when you're promoting it, like you're not passion sells. Like if you're excited about it, people are going to be excited about it too. And so I think it's so beautiful that hopefully any artist watching this, I hope that they realize that they don't have to worry so much about the end result and will actually be more successful when they don't. And Erin had some great insight into that because you kind of were falling down that slippery slope of I have to make something that people are going to buy, right?
Yeah, totally. I had gotten into this point where like it all started to help supplement income. And then it was like, I'm supplementing. And then it was like, I hate what I'm doing. This is not like the jewelry. I don't even want to wear what I'm making. Like it's selling. That's great. I'm selling out every market that I do, but for what? Like, I'm not into it. And I decided to like kind of take a step back and take a little hiatus and like figure out a new line that I really loved and that I really could pour myself into. And a lot of people didn't get it. And that was totally fine. A lot of people were like, it's just rocks. And I was like, yeah, but they're beautiful rocks. They're so special. They come from right here in this one mine in Colorado. Like, isn't that amazing? And a lot of people were like, okay, I guess that's great. But the people who loved it and who connected with it were like, that became my tribe. Like, these are my people. These are the people that are going to not only buy from me one time, they're going to buy from me every collection that I release. And they're going to be the ones that are telling their friends and spreading it on their social media. And really, like, once that set in for me that I didn't have to make jewelry for the masses, it was really kind of this turning point for my business where I then was kind of in control of like, I get to make what I want. And there's people out there that are so into it, and kind of letting go of that, like, people pleaser side of me of having to make everyone happy and just focusing on making myself happy with what I was creating.
Well, and that paralyzes so many artists. Like, but I have to make something people are going to like. And,
Right.
As you were explaining, I actually was thinking that the reason the people didn't like it is because you weren't being authentic and had built a following of people who weren't actually your people, which happens
Right.
all the time. People think they have to be a certain someone, and then they attract like the wrong people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's not that you need to be a certain way for people. It's that you can do what you love and then the right people come to you.
Mhm.
And it's such an empowering place to be, to take that pressure off of like, there are people who are going to like your stuff for sure. I just saw actually that somebody sold like an 18 by 18 square of empty space for $18,000. Did you see
Nice.
that?
I did not see that.
This guy was like, it's your use your imagination.
Yeah.
And someone purchased it for $18,000. Like, I think as long as it's authentic to you, I mean, I hope it was authentic to that man because it does kind of sound like a scam. But if I bet that his complete passion and authenticity for it had a big part in why somebody bought it, because he had a vision and he had an idea. And just, I love that as an artist, like, you really owned that. And I hope that other people realize that they can also just go with the flow of creativity. And it doesn't have to be perfect at first, because you were explaining the first piece you sold, right? Tell us about it.
Oh man, it's almost too embarrassing to talk about. So when I was writing this blog, I was doing a lot of like DIY tutorials and had started doing some DIY jewelry. And one of the first pieces that I sold was literally a dyed piece of rock from Michael's, like nothing special. Anybody can do this with Mod Podge and glitter on it. And when I look at things that I've made in more recent times and compare, it's kind of mind blowing that like I'm no longer using glue and glitter. I have, giant pieces of equipment that I'm cutting stones and shaping stones with. It's just funny how 10 years can really change a lot if you're investing in your business and in yourself and further educating yourself.
Well, it's also just such an evolution, right? And so people are worried that if it's not like legit enough or whatever enough, or they're not experienced enough, or they don't know enough, that they can't start.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
funny. I come from a long line of artists, and
oh,
I was just recently having a conversation with my aunt who she's an abstract painter, and we were talking about how there's so many times when, like, as an artist, you just have to make things. You just have to create things. And like, even if they're garbage, like even if you don't ever show it to anyone, even if you paint over it, or in my case, melt it down and turn it into something else, like you just, it's almost like breathing for someone who is creative. And honestly, a lot of times I talk to my friends who are feeling, stuck or down or stagnant, and it's like, well, what have you made lately? Like, what are you creating that's just for you? You don't have to show it to anybody. Like, and it can be anything, like writing or cooking or singing or drawing or coloring in a coloring book. Like, I think as human beings, like there's a deep desire to be creative and express yourself in some way. It's just so good for you. I think everybody should be doing it.
it's so true. And that is something that, we talked about this book, Big Magic, that is so related to this. And she, it's the girl who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And, she makes books and writes books, and she didn't expect Eat, Pray, Love to take off. And she's written a lot of books that flopped and whatever. She just keeps going because she's writing them for herself and not for other people. And if you get something out of it, cool. But like she talks about how before farming, people were painting on like cave walls and stuff. So it's like one of the most original instincts of a human is to be creative in some way. And so many people stifle that because we get caught up in it needing to have this end purpose.
Totally. Or be perfect.
Or be perfect. And it sucks for the person, the artist, but it also sucks for everyone else because we don't ever get to experience what you've done and enjoy it because you were too worried about going through that process of evolving without pressure to be perfect. Yeah. So I love that. And I love that you've already covered some of the things that I usually ask about, like how you leaned into sales. And it sounds like, being authentic has really been the thing that has opened up your sales skills. And it sounds like you're very good at it because everything's selling out all the time. It's not an issue. Your introversion is not an issue in being a successful business owner. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny too. Like one of the things that I've really embraced through like the beauty and power of social media is not just creating a social media account surrounded by trying to sell people things.
Yeah.
Like over the pandemic, I started a new like IGTV series where it's all about just talking about rocks because I love rocks. I love teaching people new things. I think that everyone should be learning new things. And honestly, I failed geology twice in college. And
how ironic. Oh my gosh.
It's ironic that now I've like got this passion about teaching people like this amazing, crazy magic that comes out of the earth. And I think that even just that, like people see how excited I am about it. And I have had people from like moms telling me that their kids love it and now their kids want to become geologists, to like grandparents who were like, I just never knew, like you see rocks all the time and you just never know where they're coming from. And it's been really, really cool to share that kind of excitement with people. And I think that that's a great way too, like through education and storytelling, to drive business if you're not good at selling things.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that sells most, that most introverts, so introverts are often not doing it for themselves. They're doing the thing for other people, which I guess is like opposing from what we're saying, like do it for yourself. But if you can focus on the sales part of it being like, if you don't sell, like focus on it more being about inspiring people and it'll
Totally.
naturally sell, or like sharing with people something. And if they like it, cool. If they don't, fine, whatever. Um, but making that like the approach more so, instead of being like, oh, well, actually, this is valued at blah, blah, blah amount. And think of all the
Right.
functions that you could wear it to and how versatile it is with your clothes. And I
Yeah.
mean, that's just not going to sell it.
No. No.
Did you ever try those kinds of like, did you fall into feeling like you
You
had to
know,
do those kinds of sales?
it's so funny. It kind of reminds me of this. I did a big like wholesale market in New York City a few years ago, and it was like a complete disaster. But the whole time that I was sitting there with this collection that was all of these rocks from Colorado, that was like literally everyone was different. Everyone was its like own special rock and design. And I could like nobody was coming to my booth, and I was super insecure and like just wanted to disappear. But the whole time there was a business across the way from me that made these beaded necklaces. And I don't know the name of the business. I don't, it doesn't matter. The whole time I was watching their like main sales girl, like almost like calling people into her booth as
Ew.
they were like, one of a kind, come get it, come see what this
Yeah.
one of a kind. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, first of all, you have 50 of the same necklace. That's not one of a kind. Let's
Yeah.
get our technicalities straight here. But just that whole like her ability to like, you across the room, come over here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how could she possibly be so boisterous about it? And yeah, that's never been me. I've always been the salesperson at the market that it's like, if you walk past my booth and smile and wave, I will smile and wave. If you want to come in and talk about jewelry, I'll talk your ear off about jewelry, but I'm not instigating that conversation. So yeah, no, I've never really been the type of person who's like, come buy what I have. Like, it's not me. It's
Yeah.
just,
Well, and something that you said that everyone that's been on the show has said is they talk about a failure, a time
yeah.
when something was a quote unquote disaster by whatever their expectations were. And
Mhm.
the most important thing is that that's the scariest outcome, right?
Yeah.
that stops everybody from moving into this and moving forward. What if I fail?
Yeah.
And you were fine. You're
No,
doing
I didn't die.
fantastic. You're supporting yourself completely by making jewelry. Like very few people are able to do that with their art. And
Yeah.
like just knowing that you're gonna fail, you're definitely gonna mess up, and you're gonna the more that doesn't bother you and you continue evolving, the more successful you're gonna be. So the worst case scenario is gonna happen for sure.
Yeah. And I really like a couple years ago decided to stop looking at all of those failures like as failures. It was like, yeah, things happen. This didn't go the way that I expected it to go. And these are the laundry list of things that I'm learning from it. And I'm just going to get up tomorrow and try again. And I think that that was really like, you have to stop looking at it as like, I failed. I can't do this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't want to fail again because we're going to keep failing forever.
Yeah, literally the only difference between someone who succeeds and someone who fails, like they both failed. It's just that one of them continued on.
Totally.
There's absolutely no way that any successful person in this world has not failed multiple times over.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, there's a saying, I forget who said it, but I love it. Like you either get the lesson you needed or the result you needed. So it really is a win-win either way. And just being able to say like, all right, I tried that, didn't hit. Let me try
Yeah.
something else. It's just not a big deal. Like, I don't know if you can shift that mindset. I know that that's what stops so many people from doing it. you're just freer. You'll create things that are better. You'll be more successful and you'll be happier.
Yes, for sure.
So, I was going to say, what has made the difference for you? Would you say it's that or something else?
No, I would say that it's that. I would say that like that whole realization of I'm doing this for me. The only person at the end of the day that has to be super stoked on what I'm doing is me, like, because I'm the one that has to get up and do it again tomorrow. And that real, like, I just am so in love with what I do. And there's never a day since that moment in time of like, I'm not making jewelry for anyone else. I'm making it for me. Since that day, there's never been a day where I'm like, oh, gotta go to work again today. Like that just doesn't happen. I'm so in love with what I do. And that's definitely been the difference.
It's so rewarding. So what would you recommend to other introverts who are considering becoming entrepreneurs?
Do it. Just do it. Like dive in with both feet, like literally stop what ifing, stop questioning, like if you're going to be good enough, stop questioning if like you will be able to get on a podcast with somebody and talk about sales, like just do it because you'll be okay, and stay true to yourself and just keep pushing.
That's the same thing that it just absolutely echoes what I say. The more you are, like, I'm talking in a sales conversation, like, am I rambling here? Like, sorry, stop me. Is this information helpful for you? Let me know if I'm like going down rabbit hole. Like, just be honest. Like, and people are gonna love you and want to work with you and want to buy from you. And think about the experience for you. Like, are you wanting to buy from the most charming, smooth person? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, I'm not into it.
I'm like totally I'm like red flags turned off. Like
scripted. Yeah.
Like you're too smooth. You're hiding something, like you're Ted Bundy. I don't know.
Totally.
Like something weird's going on here. I don't know. You're not real.
Yeah. Yeah. If I don't like totally trip over my words at least once in an interview, I feel like I'm not really being true to myself.
Well, I don't think you did trip over your words once.
Oh, good.
This was perfect. So, okay, great. Well, thank you. I think that's a good stopping point. Thank you so much for coming on, Erin. And in spite of your introversion and, having this inspiring message and living this dream that anybody can live. And I hope other people found it inspiring as well. So wonderful to have you. And how can people find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is usually the best way, at Independent Mountain Jewelry Co. on Instagram. And then my website is independentmountainjewelryco.com.
All right, wonderful. So thank you so much, you guys, and we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.